All right, so Wyatt here, Team O'Neill again. We've been getting a lot of good questions and we've gotten a lot of good ideas from some of the people that have been through the school and certainly some of the people that we race with. One of the hardest things to realize about racing is that it doesn't really matter if you can build a fast car and get a lot of practice and get a good navigator and do a bunch of races and be successful at it. That doesn't always equate to finding sponsorship. In fact, it never really is going to help you out very much. We know a lot of people that have been out there winning races, winning championships even, that had to get out of the sport so they could actually live a real life and be able to afford it because they were just paying for almost all of their own stuff. So it really doesn't matter. Any kind of racing that you're involved in, you've got to pay your own way a little bit to get started, but at some point somebody else is going to have to take over for you, at least partially, in order for that program to be sustainable. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're road racing, if you're ski racing, if you're rally racing. You could be, trying to build a hockey rink in your town. It makes no difference if you're trying to raise some funds for some of this stuff. When you're approaching some of these companies, you need to do it kind of often and kind of a lot, and you need to really speak their language a little bit about what they want to hear and what you can actually provide them. So I'm going to give you a quick rundown that'll hopefully help you a little bit because we'd like to see a lot more people racing. We'd like to see a lot of people who were racing get back into racing. So this is just a quick little spiel on how it all sort of works and how we've had some success with it. And I'm sure some marketing people will probably pick it apart, but it's just for the beginner to find some cash to help you go racing and to help you get out there and hopefully help you stay out there. The first thing you always need to do is to make a freaking plan and have a plan and have a couple of plans. You might be looking at it as if, well, I'd really love to race next season. The whole season I'd like to go for the championship. Well, be a little realistic about that. Figure out, do you have a car that's capable of it? Do you have a co-driver that's capable of it? How much money is it going to take? How much money do you have? And what are you really looking for? What are you going to need to make that happen? What's plan B? Maybe you're not going to be able to do the whole championship. Maybe just the events that are closest to you. Maybe there's only 3 races next year that you might want to do. Or maybe there's one last ditch, there's one race you can make and that'll be great. So have a couple of different plans kind of in your back pocket and say, ooh, if things go well, I'd like to do that. This is pretty reasonable, and worst comes to worst, I'm at least going to do that. Or something. You guys all know the deal with racing. Halfway through next season, things could be going really well or really terribly. So nothing's really concrete, but at least kind of assess your situation and make a little bit of a plan, what you'd like and what you'd like to go for. The next thing you need to do is to make a list of people who you think might want to sponsor you. And people that you think you might like to have sponsor you. So basically, literally, you can sit down and come up with a list of 10 companies, 20 companies, 30 companies. Write them down. That's great. The thing that really works the best, though, is to keep a spreadsheet going or keep, it doesn't matter if it's a piece of paper in your refrigerator, and keep that list growing. Keep adding to it. If you can add 2 or 3 companies a day that you stumbled across something walking through a store, you bumped into something browsing the internet, and you thought, oh man, Leatherman might be into it. That's cool. Add it onto your list. Because the more, when we get further down here, the more people that you get in contact with, the better your results are going to be. Because it's actually a very small percentage of these companies that are actually going to come through and help you out. So this sponsor list, if you can write down 50 right now, great. If you can come up with 100, that's better. If you can come up with 200, 300, 400, wonderful. Take an afternoon sometime and just go through it. When you're looking at these companies, one thing to keep in mind is that very large companies, you're not going to really be able to help them much. If they're buying Super Bowl ads and they've got a NASCAR team running, having Joe, the novice racing guy out there on the weekends isn't going to really be that beneficial. And the other thing is, if you go after one of these big names, you go after Red Bull, Coca-Cola, Vitamin Water, whatever it might be, they might get 5,000 proposals over the course of a month for different things. So you're just going to be another name in the herd. So really big companies, probably aren't going to be your best as a grassroots racer. They're probably just not going to go for it. Doesn't mean you shouldn't try, but certainly kind of don't aim for too many of those. And again, with very small companies, you know, startup companies, you know, Joe's Bagel Shop down the street from you, yeah, they might help you out a little bit, but don't think that a few years down the road, Joe's Bagel Shop is going to be, you know, really helping your program out that much. It might be nice, it might be a good early on thing to have, but really small companies aren't going to be able to keep supporting you as your team grows. So certainly include some big companies and some little companies in there, but it's kind of those medium-sized companies that have some cash to spend, that are hopefully the company is getting bigger, the company's growing as your racing program is hopefully growing, that if you can get a good relationship going with them now, you might be working together for the next 2, 3, 4 years. So that's what you're really going for. But keep a list going, keep adding to the list, keep this list growing, keep hundreds of companies on this list somewhere in a notebook, on a spreadsheet, whatever you do. Keep that going. Keep it in your back pocket. Don't do anything yet. What you need to figure out is what you can ever offer them. Because when you do get in contact with them, hopefully you're going to get somebody in their marketing department that's going to get this thing come across their desk, and they're going to say, oh, well, Joe wants to go racing and he sent me a thing and now I got to figure out what's going on here. What can you offer them? And it gets overwhelming because you might be thinking, oh man, I need $5,000 to get to this race and I need tires and I need some of this other stuff, and you get caught up in what you need. Well, that's just selfish and it's not going to work. So you can't think like that. You've got to think, what can you offer these people? What they want to see is exposure. That you're going to be an advertising outlet for that company. Basically, they want to know that if they put a sticker on the hood of your race car, that somebody's going to notice. Because great, you're winning races, you're doing well, you're doing whatever. If a tree falls in the woods and nobody hears it, certainly it's not good for anyone. So try and think about how you can really start making some media content and getting it out there, because that's what they want to see. Well, a few different kinds of that. The easiest version ever is just press releases. When you do a race, it's just a quick after action report. You know, how are things looking going into the race? How did the race go for you? How did the race end? What are your plans next? That's a press release. There's good ones, there's bad ones, but you do a few. There's guidelines out there online. You can see how to write a press release. It's no big deal. Throw a couple of photos in, and you've got a press release down. Where are you going to send it to? Before you even go racing, look at local magazines, look at local newspapers even. You know, if you're living in a metropolitan area or somewhere with a decent population, and some of these circulations are going around and a lot of people are reading a lot of information. If I lived in Boston right now, it would be really easy for me to go racing. In some ways, in other ways it'd be really difficult because I couldn't practice. But in this way, it would be very simple, because when I wrote press releases, I know that maybe there's 5 or 6 newspapers, maybe not the big ones, but a bunch of newspapers would probably publish that, either in the sports page or something else. If you're kind of pitching the local hero image of, you know, oh, this guy's racing cars, that's great. You know, it's easy for me in a small town here to be able to swing that. So, you know, right now press releases can go out to local places. Certainly lots of online places you can send them to. Just throw them a PDF or a Word document with some photos and see if they put them up. If you can get some commitments that, yeah, sure, send us your stuff, we'll run it. We're looking for content on that. You know, if you're sending press releases to the normal places, they're probably not going to get put up. If you're putting stuff out to Grassroots Motorsports and some of these other online motorsports places, they probably get press releases from a few thousand teams every month. So why are they going to show yours? They're probably not. So think more along the lines of, boom, I'm racing a Ford Fiesta. Well, who's paying attention to Ford Fiesta stuff? You know, there's different websites, there's different forums, there's different other places. You know, maybe, you know, I'm a guy who's also into doing this, and I've done some, you know, rock climbing. Maybe these guys who are into that want to learn about whatever it might be. If you can come up with people who will either commit to or are interested in kind of waiting and would like to see your press releases, figure out what those numbers are. You know, after you do a few races and you send a few out and you get a mailing list down, you can tell, boom, every time I send a press release, you know, these 6 places publish it, that goes out to 10,000 people each, so boom, you've got 60,000 eyeballs see that press release. Most of them might read it, some of them read half of it, maybe nobody reads it, but it circulates to 60,000 people who have the chance to read it, that are going to stumble across it. That's very valuable to know. And the higher you can get that number, the better off you are. After you've done a few races, you might say, man, I send these guys a press release every race and they never publish it. Take them off your mailing list. Look for other options. You know, look for a few different, every race you do, try and add a few people to this mailing list who might distribute your information. And it's just as simple as writing up a quick press release, throw a couple of photos in it, boom, cut and paste your email, you know, this little list that you have for press releases, send it out after the race. It takes about 2 hours at the most, and you might be hitting 60,000 people. You might be hitting 100,000 people. You might, your first race only hit 2 or 3, who knows? But the bigger you can get that number, the happier you're going to be, the happier your sponsors are going to be. It's the same as social media. If you're not doing social media and you're trying to race right now and you're trying to kind of raise funds and prove that you have some advertising or other worth to these sponsors, it's going to be difficult because that's just what a lot of people are doing right now. That's where there's a very big audience there. So what you need to figure out here when you're making a plan, make yourself a team name, make some stickers, make some hats, make some whatever you want, but make yourself a Facebook page, give your team an Instagram page that people can follow along and see as you're building the car, as you're going to races, as you're crashing into ditches, as you're practicing, as you're doing whatever you might be doing. You know, people want to follow those stories, and you need to kind of keep trickling information out so that they can. And certainly the social media thing, even if you don't have a huge following personally, maybe you have some fans or some just friends on Facebook, you make a page, that gets some fans. You can link that to your sponsors' pages or share information on theirs. Or get this little bit of a machine going to where, like now, I mean, I've only got probably 2,000 on Instagram and 2,000 on Facebook, makes 4, but I can put stuff out. The rally school might do a few posts and they get 10 on each, so that's 20, makes 24. And then I can find someone else on Facebook or Instagram who can repost something or share something, or maybe the sponsor themselves has 100,000 followers on Facebook, and when they put something out, it hits. But whatever it is, even you yourself and your team should be able to have pretty decent social media numbers without really doing that much. Just quality information fairly regularly, decent photos, that kind of thing. You know, if you can get this number to 20,000 every month, that's great. You know, as a starting point, that's awesome. You know, if you can get it to 50,000, that's better. You know, you look at some of the top guys out there in different kinds of racing and different kinds of stuff. You know, like I said, it could be boat racing or ski racing or anything. You know, when something's happening, they have massive social media presence. There's millions of people that see that, whether it's on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, or people following along or whatever. So, you know, if this number isn't where you want it, same thing, just keep working on that. You know, it's the same with your team actually making and distributing its own content. You know, think about making a YouTube channel. Why not? You know, everybody out there, it's very easy to get a GoPro camera. It's everybody's got a laptop or some, you know, the GoPro editing software isn't even bad. You can certainly make photos, videos, that kind of stuff, and start releasing that on your own. That goes as far as, you know, can you talk someone else into publishing an article? Maybe something that goes beyond what a normal press release would go. Maybe you could write an article about how your team got started and send that to the college alumni office from the school that you went to, and they publish this cool story about, you know, the people that went racing and did whatever. Maybe that can get 30,000 views. That's wonderful. You know, maybe your YouTube channel, your videos start to get more and more views. That's great. You know, if your content that you're putting out regularly, because it kind of has to be one of those things where it's coming out and you're feeding people information, you know, if that's 20,000 people you can reach, that's great. If you can write an article for a regional magazine or somebody like that, that's not a hard number to get up to 100,000. Wonderful, great. Move on from there. Events. You know, what events would you be willing to do? Would you be willing to take your weekends and go to car shows? Would you be willing to take your weekends or your weeknights and go talk to students at a high school about building race cars and staying off of drugs or whatever it might be? You know, would you be willing to, you know, go to some of these extracurricular events? Like I said, if you're racing a Ford Fiesta, would you be willing to go to Ford dealership events and give people rides, or just have the race car at a ski mountain for the weekend and talk about whatever? Wonderful. You know, these events all get a lot of exposure, some more than others, but I went to one was a local, the Burlington Brew Fest. It was like the local brewery thing. 30,000 people, that one event, just hanging out, drinking different microbrews and whatever. 30,000 people were at that one event. Yeah, you gotta pay a couple bucks to get a booth space, but you can set up your race car, set up your tent, hang out for the day, no big deal. Boom, you can get pretty quick, easy numbers from doing that. That was one event, that was one Saturday. And certainly if you're consistent with that and you're following through, that just feeds back to social media stuff. That feeds back to everything else. That gives you more contacts. That gives you a bigger network of people and stuff and activity that's happening, and it makes everything else better. Other press. Can you get someone to come write an article on you? Can you get a local or regional magazine? Can you get a national magazine? Can you get a newspaper? Can you get a national newspaper? Can you get anyone, or whether it's, you know, it doesn't really matter. The more you can do, the better. You know, we just got a story published on the Rally School and the Improper Bostonian. That'll be out before this video even is. They get 200,000 readers every week. So all of a sudden, you know, boom, that just other press, they came up, they did the story, it took a day, it's no big deal. 200,000 right there. And you can't get that stuff all the time, but it happens. And if you're looking for it, and if you're emailing and you're sending some phone calls out and you're trying stuff, eventually stuff just works out. And so that can happen for you. So the last thing on this list, and there's other options. You know, like I said, I'm not a marketing person. This is just kind of an easy formula and stuff that I found that's worked. Do the numbers and say, okay, which of these are my strongest points and which of those are my worst? You know, how many people are following my social media? Is there, how do I boost that? Do I have Instagram? Does the team have Instagram? Am I taking good photos? Is stuff happening? Whatever it is. You know, it's the saying in advertising used to be, you've got to pay to play, and now it's you've got to play to play. You've got to be out there and doing stuff and posting crap, and even if it doesn't seem fun to you, whatever it is, just keep putting stuff out there. Which of these are you not doing? Are you not doing events? There's big numbers to be had there, especially if you live somewhere fairly metropolitan. If you're not calling other journalists and saying, hey, would you like to come do a story on our team? Would you like to come to a race with us? Or do you want to come do a story on our car? Or whatever. There's really big numbers to be had right there. And it's easy stuff. So do the numbers and see, you know, where are you strong, where are you weak, how can you get better? And do a quick total. You know, okay, say I got 60, 50s, 110, and another 100, 210 is 240, is 440,000 people a month. Or last month, or this month, or whatever your projections are. But if you can come up with 440,000 people a month that are following your story, or at least have seen a part of it, or at least have seen a photo of that car, and saw your name, and saw the branding that's on it, or it's whatever your sponsors might be, that's what they need to see. That number is going to equate to a dollar amount to a sponsor. So, Coca-Cola, that 440,000 views might only be worth $440. You know, to a smaller company that doesn't get that kind of exposure, that can be worth a whole lot more. You know, so if you can figure out how to make this number the highest, you know, there's literally a formula that says every view to some people is worth a penny, to some people is worth a fraction of a penny, to some people is worth 10 cents. You know, whoever, you know, it depends on the company and who your target, not your target audience, but who your actual audience is. You know, of these people, you know, like I said, we just got an article published right here. Who are those 200,000 people? What's their age bracket? Where do they live? How old are they? You know, the same thing. You can check your social media demographics. Does your team have a website? You can look at the analytics on that and say, okay, well now 440,000 people, well, chances are if it's motorsports, it's at least 80% males. And chances are if it's motorsports, it's probably between, you know, 18 and 35 or whatever it might be. Depends on how your plan was made and what media you've been releasing and where you've been releasing it affects your demographics and who's actually watching it. So you tie that back into your sponsor list here and you say, well, I've got a mostly young audience, a mostly male audience, and I've got 440,000 of them, and that's good. That's a good number to have. It's a good number to know. Unless you go back and you look at your sponsor list and you say, crap, it really helped me a lot if I had more women to appeal to sponsor A, or I had an older crowd to approach to sponsor B, because your actual audience needs to be their target market for this whole thing to work. So early on, whatever your audience is, look, and that has to be their target market. As you get better, you can engineer your audience to be their target market, or you might just say, hey, there's no women actually looking at our racing stuff, how can you make that happen? And that'll just boost this overall number. Or hey, there's no younger people, how do I appeal to them? That'll boost this number. So you can get a more well-rounded figure and just a larger number there in general by looking at the demographics and figuring out where you're lacking and engineering it to be what you want it to be. That's fine. At that point, now you've got a fairly good idea. And again, you might get to this point and stop. You might get to right here and say, holy crap, okay, I got a lot of work to do. And not even make a proposal, not even call anybody yet. And figure this out, make a website, spend a little bit of time, or a lot of time really, and a little bit of money, and get your thing together here so that you've got something that's kind of marketable. Because like I said, all you're going to be is an advertising outlet for a company. So if you're racing on your own and you're having some fun with it, keep going. But if you want to move forward, you've got to square this away, or at least make a plan on how to get these numbers bigger and how to square this away a little bit better before you move on. So when you feel like you're pretty squared away and you've got something here that's marketable, you need to build a proposal. What you're actually going to be sending to these people that's going to explain your program and hopefully get them on board for it. It doesn't need to be hugely elaborate. It can be just a soft copy, something that you make yourself, a Word document, an Excel spreadsheet, whatever. Not an Excel spreadsheet, but certainly a PowerPoint, something like that. Not a computer guy, but there you go. Make a proposal. Who are you? What are you doing? When are you doing it? Where are you doing it? Why are you doing it? And why should they support you in doing it? Personally, I don't put dollar signs or a product or anything else. A lot of people will put, you know, available levels of sponsorship at the end page of their proposal, saying title sponsor $10,000, secondary sponsor $5,000, you know, tertiary sponsor, or whatever the verbiage is on that. Different people do different things. It's a lot easier to just say, who are you, what are you doing, when are you doing it, where are you doing it, type of thing. And even if it's just for one race, even if your goal is to do the whole championship, fine, you gotta make the first one. If you can't make the first one, or if you can find someone to pay for the first one, maybe you'll be able to make the second one, or whatever. Make that proposal can be a one race thing. Hey, there's this race, it's here, this is when it is, this is where we're doing it, you're welcome to come with us if you'd like. That'd be even better. Come meet the team, wonderful. This is how we can help you. And the last page on your proposal spells this whole thing out. You know, who's looking at you, who's doing stuff, what you can give them, and then you'll have something that's workable. So build this proposal, sit on it, don't do anything with it. The first thing you need to do here, when you start getting in contact with people, there's the first email or phone call. It's just a cold call. Basically, all you're doing is feeling out if they have any interest at all in what you're talking about. So you go look at your sponsor list and you say, great, yeah, I've got 100 names. So you've got 100 people that you're going to sit down and either give a ring on the phone, ask for the marketing department, send an email, find someone in the marketing department that you can email info at whatever it is, whatever email address you can find on their website, look on their Facebook, do whatever you can, but try and get in contact with somebody who knows what they're doing, not a customer service person unless they can forward you on to a marketing person, but try and find a marketing person that you can talk to and say, hey, do you have any interest in working with our team? We're doing this kind of racing stuff or whatever it might be they're into, and we get a fair amount of press and we'd like to talk to you about how we can help promote your product. Fine, great. 2 sentences there. They're going to say, yeah, sure, send us some information. They're going to say, nah, we spent our budget for the year. Yeah, racing isn't really with us because we sell Birkenstocks or whatever it is. So what you're going to find, and this is the frustrating part that a lot of people are missing out on a little bit, if you cold call 100 people, you're going to get maybe 75 aren't even going to reply. Or you'll leave a message on a voicemail and you'll never get a call back, or you'll send an email, you'll never get a reply, because these people are very busy and they do a lot of this stuff every day, and if it doesn't appeal to them, it really just honestly isn't worth their time. And if you get offended by that and that hurts your feelings and you say, oh, I emailed all these people and nobody's emailing back to me, that's just the way that it is. It's business, that's how it works. Don't get frustrated. 75 of these people aren't even going to reply. The other 25 people, 15 of those are going to say no. So this 75 is no reply. 15 are going to say thanks but no thanks. And then you might get 10 out of 100 that say, can we have some more information? We'd like to learn a little bit more. Well, why not? We haven't understood about racing. Let's try it. Do you have any more information about your race or your season or your whatever you're trying to do? And that is when you say, of course I do. Number 2, you send them the proposal. And don't think again that this needs to be a high-dollar proposal or tailored directly to whatever that company is. It doesn't matter if it's Leatherman or Expo Markers or whatever, Solo Boots. It makes no difference. You can write a personal note with this, because all it says is who you are, what you'd like to do, and it gives them some of these numbers and whatever. You write a personal note with the email that says, I'd love it if we could help promote your products while we're doing this stuff. It'd be great to get your name out there, whatever. Just, it's all about what you can do for them. Don't even mention money or anything else, or you receiving at this point, and nowhere in this process have you yet talked about, yeah, I really need whatever it is that you really want. That's fine. And they're going to come back from this proposal. If you sent 10 people this proposal, maybe, in all honesty, maybe 1 is going to come back and say, yeah, let's do it. Sounds good. We love your stuff. We'd love to be a part of it. Maybe 3. I would not expect any more than 1 or 3 out of 100 to actually reply to your proposal and say, yeah, we'd love to get on board, let us know what you need. And when they do reply, they're not going to say, let us know what you need. They're going to come back and say, well, we'd love to help you out. It's not really in our budget right now, but we can send you some product, we can send you some stickers, we'd love to help you get to the event. If these few cases of oil or, whatever, this gear that you needed or gear that you wanted or gear that you didn't have or whatever their product is, they send you some of that, they send you some stickers. What you need to do then, now that you've got kind of a fish on the hook at least, is follow through with that thing, and follow through with it as if they had just cut you a check for $5,000. And I don't care if they just sent you a couple of pairs of shoes, a hat, some stickers, and a t-shirt. That's great. Throw the stickers on the car. Make sure they're in a good spot. Make sure they look good. Make sure you get some pictures with the car while it's clean before you roll it over, with the whole thing looking good with some decent lighting. Send them those pictures. Send out some press releases. Send out on your Facebook, boom, new sponsor, this deal going to this race. Photos of the car. Promote the hell out of this thing, because there's nothing worse really than showing up at a race with a race car with no sponsors on it. Sure, there's a lot of worse things, not going to race at all, but if you have a sponsor on your vehicle and you've got stickers on the car and you've got you know, some gear running around and the mechanics are wearing some gear and you've got the patch on your suit, and some of that stuff is kind of like how girls never hit on you till you have a girlfriend. Because that sort of means that you're somewhat valuable to somebody. And that actually can help you a lot. So even if these people, they just send you some shoes and some t-shirts and some stickers and whatever, work the hell out of it. Go through it, like I said, just as if they had given you $10,000. Follow through with all of this stuff. Do your press releases. Work the hell out of the social media angle. Put out some content. Do your own photos. Do your own video. Get that stuff out there. If you do write an article, include their name in it. Any press releases and social media. Include a big thank you to them. Whatever. You know, when you go to events, when you do anything that you're doing, you're including them in it, you're showing them stuff. You know, as you finish races, if you make it to the end, you know, send them a thank you email. You know, I've sent sponsors copies of trophies. When you get a trophy at the end of a race, look in the back, see where it was made. They never take the stickers off the damn things. Call that guy up, and probably, at least in rallies, we have cheap trophies, so maybe for 30 bucks you can get a copy of it. Send it to them. They'll hang it on their office in their little wall or whatever, and they're going to think that's the coolest thing ever, you know? Send them a glossy framed picture of the car at a good angle with their sticker on it. You know, thank you so much, whatever you're doing right there. Give them way more than they ever expected you to be ever able to do for them. And send them copies. You know, make sure they know that you're doing this stuff. Make sure they're seeing it on your social media. They're being tagged in your social media. They're getting more phone calls. They're getting people calling them and asking them more questions about stuff. You know, show them a massive return on a small investment on their part, and they're going to thank you. You know, their people, at least at a medium or large business, they've got guys that are looking at their website analytics. They've got guys that are looking at their social media analytics. And if you doing a race drives more traffic to their website, if it drives more traffic to their social media, if it drives more traffic to their bank account, especially somehow, you know, you're helping actually promote their products to the point where they're selling them more, they're going to love you for it. And, you know, in one race, sure, the first time it might have been hats and some stickers and some shoes for the guys or whatever. Well, guess what? The next time you're on the phone, you're on the email with Bill from wherever, and you say, hey, I'm thinking about doing this next race, you're going to have a lot more serious conversation about, you know, some money changing hands and some cooler stuff happening and some bigger things. So like I said, if you've got a fairly decent company like that you can work with, and that's a growing company as your race team is growing, that's where magical things happen.